Welcome to the Seraphine Podcast. I am Seraphine Arocha, and today we have Brandon Adams. Hello and welcome.
Thank you for having me. Good seeing you.
I am in a vulnerable position because this is really, it's the first time we've met.
Yep.
So I have seen you on social media. I've heard nothing but good things about you. And when I book guests here, I really rely on my team. And Giovanna spoke just your praises through and through. And I can't wait to learn more about you. The more I read about you and your biography and who you are as a human being, I'm just really excited to have this conversation and introduce you to the social media world and the podcast world. So welcome.
Thank you for having me, by the way.
I'm glad to have you here. So we're going to start out by just telling a little bit about your story, who you are today, and where you came from.
For sure. So grew up here in Kansas City, been here all my life, 25 years. My father was a pastor. My mother worked in the government. And the one thing that I can say is my parents really valued Christian education as well as just keep me rooted and grounded into my faith. When I was growing up, I always, saw my parents support me. They always were there for me. And the beautiful thing about that was I never really had to go outside of myself to find support. So I always had it in the home. My father being a pastor, he influenced me more than anything growing up without me even knowing it, and I'm finding more about that today. So my father being a pastor, I always saw him speaking into other people's lives, whether it was congregation, his kids, people around him. People just knew him because he spoke well for himself, but also knew how to say the right things at all the time. So when I was growing up, my father always came to my games, supported me, and then at the age of 13, my father had passed away. So when my father passed away, it took a big toll on me because he was my big support system, and my mother stepped in to where she made sure we lacked of nothing. But when my father had left me, it was kind of like, what does it mean to be a man? I wasn't asking those questions of, what does it mean to be a husband, a father, a man of God, and stuff like that. So when I was growing up, I remember what he taught me, and I remember the role model he set. It was just finding out how I fit in that, what I can do for myself. So my father definitely left a lot of himself inside of me, and then growing up, just these past years, I've been able to kind of find out who he was because I'm doing things unknowingly that my father did.
That's so cool.
When I would come home and tell my mom certain things, she's like, "You're just like your father." And now it's like kind of cool to watch that because I'm doing things that he would do. So when it comes to me being a personal trainer now, I love speaking into people. The workout part is easy. Anybody can do a workout. But I want to make sure that when you walk away from my class, you feel a higher energy. You feel like you did something. You feel like you did something more than what you're used to. So just pouring into people is a big thing about what I love to do.
I love that. Do you remember watching your father in church?
Yes,
You
definitely.
do?
Yeah. He was a very emotional and passionate speaker. I mean, I think every single time you preach, you would cry.
I love it. Did he ever draw from his own life to support the gospel that he was teaching?
Yes, no, definitely. Both his mother and his father as well were heavily rooted in the church, and they both, value Christian education. And he would always, draw back from how his life was impacted to where he can impact others. So my mother was born to a family of 12, my dad a family of 7. So having that big of a family, you had to kind of support your own, support your people, and make sure everybody had what they need to. So my father definitely would, in his sermons, make sure that people knew, like, hey, you can do it too.
I love hearing that. So a little snippet about me is I dated a young man in high school, and his father was the pastor of a Lutheran church.
Okay.
And we would go every Sunday, and his father, every once in a while, would bring up us as an example of I don't know what. And I remember just that feeling of at first of like embarrassment, because I was a teenage girl and I didn't want my relationship, used as an example of what to do or what not to do. But there was also this really beautiful kind of feeling to be within a story and sharing ideas and beliefs that help enhance people's lives.
Definitely.
And it also, there was a little bit of, a sense of pride, I guess. Mm-hmm. So as a as a little boy, did you have duties around the church? Like I had oh my God, I had my best friend when I was younger. Her father was a pastor as well. But I remember like having to clean up and put the Oreo cookies away from, different Sunday school. Do you remember any of that kind of stuff?
See, we didn't have duties at the church. No, I think that was for like the elders or the members of the stuff. We had duties at home though, all day long for sure.
Yeah.
So like at home, we would be given allowance and stuff like that, but we had to do our chores, do the hard work, put the effort in to get anything that we want. So that definitely resonated with me because nothing was given to us. And I'm so glad that was taught to me at a very young age to where now when I'm out in the real world and doing what I do now, I know that anything I do has a result and repercussion, and I have to make sure that what I'm doing is done intentionally. But not in the church, but everything else.
How would you describe when people come into your classes at Orangetheory? What would you describe the vibe of your class, your energy?
So one of my favorite things is when I see a new face, it's a challenge to me to make you love me. I want to make sure by the end of the class, you know that you had the best time ever. So one thing I always try to do is get to know people's names because I think everybody has a story. You don't know what people are bringing into class either. I've met some people that, just finished a final. And when they finish a final, they didn't know if they did good. They came to our workout. They felt so good. And I met some people to where, they're going through a loss or they're here because somebody died or somebody had passed away or somebody just got diagnosed with an ailment or something like that. So I want to make sure when people come to my class, I leave them better than I found them. That's my saying and that's my heart because I never know if I'm going to meet you for 5 minutes, 5 months, or 5 years, but I want to make sure out of the relationship that we have that you're better because of what I did or what I said or what I poured into you. But anytime I see someone that I know or don't know, I want to make sure that they don't just come and leave the same way. I always tell people, go to bed a different person than you woke up as. So.
I love that. I'm also in the same kind of zone of being better. Feeling better as a person. I know I'm not perfect, and I know I've had a lot of fuck ups in my life. I mean, a lot. And I've had these moments that have just forced me into reevaluating who I am. And I guess what I would ask you is, has there ever been a time in your life where you had to make a big pivot of who you are?
Definitely.
Yeah.
So when I graduated from Maranatha Christian Academy and I got into college, I was 150 pounds soaking wet. So just straight up and down. I really wasn't anything special in sports, so I didn't go to college to play sports. But when I got there, I noticed everybody was taller than me. I'm the shortest one in my family. All my family is 6'2", 6'5".
Yeah.
So I know I was getting taller, so I had to make a decision to get bigger, wider. I knew that going into this, I knew nothing. Absolutely nothing. And when I was telling all my friends and family, I was expecting them to be super excited for me. Hey, I'm going to start lifting. Oh, that's awesome. But they were like, don't do that. Lifting stunts your growth. I'm like, I'm already this short. I can't change anything now. Yeah. Or like, hey, you might hurt yourself or it's not good. People have heart. I thought that making a change would be good or, be something that's applauded. But when I started to make those changes in daily habits, people weren't necessarily happy for me in the way I thought they would be.
Yeah.
So I had to make a pivot with who I talked to, how I lived, what I did, and mentally, I kind of shut myself off from the way I used to live and become this new person. So I literally had to die to my flesh and, hey, I want to sleep in or I want to go out. I want to be able to just relax to, I want to be able to be uncomfortable. Yeah. I'm going to be in this room for 2 hours, grow, work hard, and come out a better person. I'm not going to see today, but I know the next month, the next 2 months, I'm going to see that difference. So the biggest pivot I had to learn was learning to die to procrastination and who I used to be to become who I wanted to be. And that's something I tell people now because I think that change is one of the hardest things to do. We as humans, we want to be the same. We want to be comfortable. Yeah. But when it comes to getting anything different in life, you have to do something new. And that's the hardest thing, just making that decision. So I always try to make sure that I'm not stuck in a routine. I think that's easy. You might find yourself doing that too as a coach.
Yep, 100%.
It's easy to coach the same template or do the same workout you did last week and just kind of say, you know what, this is good, I'm going to redo it. But finding a way to just spice it up or create that newness because you never want to be complacent or too comfortable to where you're not growing anymore, which I think is easy to do.
I agree. In terms of people who have kind of changed your outlook on the fitness world, people who've motivated you to, maybe it's the the lifestyle you live, whether it's health, whether it's a certain kind of workout. Are there any people that come to mind at the forefront?
Yes, two. So have you heard of David Goggins?
Yes.
When you read his book, You Can't Hurt Me,
Yeah.
that book definitely changed the way I look at pain. It's just relative. We experience it, but we don't have to internalize it. We don't have to accept it. Mm-hmm. You can understand that it's there, it's present, but the actions you take because of it are completely dependent on how mentally tough you are, which I think a lot of times when you run into it, it's easy to just fold, break, fall. And reading his book, hearing his story, listening to his motivation just helped me realize whether it was, building a relationship with a woman or it's building a business.
Yeah.
You have to be able to realize that pain is part of the process. And then Arnold Schwarzenegger. So if you watch his story, he came from where he was to here, and he literally applied discipline to become a bodybuilder. Took that same discipline to become an actor, and then to become the governor. And then apply it to just owning business. So it's like, I think fitness is just one thing that I'm good at, or people might find easy because it's something that, I'm not going to say it's trendy, but when you apply discipline to it, you see automatic results. You notice it in yourself. But if you apply that same discipline to something invisible, such as, reading books or taking time to build relationships, or just put yourself in uncomfortable situations that, people might not applaud right now, but down the road, you're able to see it. That's something that's huge to me. So now I'm to a point to where in fitness, it's still exciting to me. It's something I want to do, but I want to be able to do more with that discipline. If I took that same obsession with growing my body, what else am I capable of if I do that?
I love that. Now, my next question is there someone who's walked into your studio or the gym that you've worked with that went through change and growth themselves, mm-hmm. but they changed and grew you?
I would say my wife, honestly. And I'm not just saying that either, because I remember when I was just before I was a personal trainer, I used to do car sales. Yeah. So during car sales, the sales world, you kind of wake up, grind, then you go to bed. I had to fit my routine in there somewhere. So when I was in car sales for 2 years, left it to become a financial advisor. I had a little bit more free time. So I was still working out. And then my wife, when she reached out to me, she was looking for a personal trainer. That way that she could stay in shape for dance competitions and auditions. So when she reached out to me, I was already set in my mind that, yes, I wanted to date you, but yes, I also wanted to work out with you. So this was the first time I actually had someone in the gym to where I was actually interested in them, and I wanted to be able to grow myself and their body. So I remember our first time working out, I would throw at her, hey, good job, Alyssa, keep it up. And then I would be struggling or breathing hard. And then she would say, hey, keep it up, Brady, you got it. So when that happened, I'm like, wait a second, like you can pour into me the same way I pour into you. And then throughout the 3 years that we've known each other, not only have our bodies grown, but we have mentally challenged each other to be able to see that we're capable of more. And just from having someone next to you, you can relate. Anytime you're working out with somebody or doing anything together, it keeps you accountable. I can't slack off because they're not slacking off. Oh. I don't want to look weak because they're not looking weak right now. Yeah. So the biggest, I think, change was when I met Alyssa. In the past 3 years, like I've done things that I didn't think I could do by myself, honestly, because I was very comfortable. I think when you have a partner or someone in your life that keeps you accountable, like you don't do things the same way anymore, or you can't. Because if you do, maybe they're uncomfortable or you're too comfortable, and then something has to change. Something has to give.
Yeah. I love to hear that my husband plays a huge role in my motivation to keep, fresh and looking young at 43. Because he looks really, really good for his age. And it's interesting because I do see when couples get unhealthy together too.
Sure.
And a lot of it can come from maybe outside stress. Maybe it comes from an injury. Maybe it comes from a mental illness. Together, how do you hold each other accountable to keep going? Because you're married now.
Right.
And I think married life kind of gets a little bit like, we're together, So how do you two keep each other accountable?
So our really exciting thing we're doing right now is called ABS. It stands for Listen, Brain, and Sweat Sessions. It came out of what happened, 8 months ago, quarantine, when it happened back in March. And what happened was when they said dance studios are closed, gyms are closed, liquor stores are open, but if you want to keep your health, you got to figure something out. That's when Zoom classes became a big thing. So when Alyssa and I saw that there was room and space for what we love to do, whether it's dance and fitness, and we can combine it, we decided to attack. So what we do is a 45-minute workout, and it's a hit style, and dancing is included, to where we work out, we dance, we work out, we dance. And we literally just started doing over online. So doing it online, people were showing up, 20, 30 people, and they love to do it. And we said, wait until everything's back open and we can do it even more. So the one thing that's keeping us accountable now is making sure that we're both going for what we want. Now, being transparent, there was a point in time when everything opened back up. I'm in Orangetheory. Alyssa was going for it. I wasn't. I got comfortable making the money, and then I kind of lost sight of the vision. Now being married, in the same household together, it's like, I can't keep doing what I'm doing now if I want this to become something bigger than what it is now. So every single day, we keep a routine of, hey, baby, what are your classes? All right, boom, here are the classes. When are we creating content? When are we shooting a video? When are we going to put out that video? When are we going to do these flyers? And this is the most disciplined, robotic routine I've had that actually produces results. Because I think that if you want to manifest something, it starts first with thought, then put emotion into the thought, and then you write the thought down, and then you take action on it. So when we're thinking of this stuff, we're putting emotion on it of how is this going to make us feel? How are these people going to feel when they're done working out? Let's write out the workout and then let's execute it. So stuff like that has been so exciting to see because, when you first start dating, it's fun. You're just trying to not keep it alive, but you're trying to make that person more interested in you. And once you got them, it's like, all right, let's do something. Let's put our hands on something. Let's create.
Yeah, and I love that. I can't wait to get your wife in the hot seat because I always love to hear the other story, of her perception of it. And then, it's interesting because with a lot of married couples, I find it's hard to work together. And then with others, it's so easy. They are, I always use Beyonce and Jay-Z. They just click and they know how to have an empire work. Whereas me and my husband are not Beyonce and Jay-Z. He does his work, I do mine. And then where we make up for it is, how we overwhelm each other with love and passion, and we're very touchy, but not touchy-feely like Creep Show, but when it comes to figuring out what we need from each other.
Definitely.
So whenever you're because you seem to give quite a bit.
A lot. I'm a big giver. We both are. I don't know if it has anything to do with our signs of Pisces, but I
definitely.
love
You guys are both
energy.
Pisces. Wow.
February 22nd, March 9th. So
no way.
We
it's a
love
very
energy.
That's a soulful sign. When you start to tap out, and sometimes it happens simultaneously. Where do you guys fill your well? How do you do it?
I think doing what we were doing before we met each other. Alyssa definitely rejuvenates me. When I'm done with class, I'm literally on FaceTime like, where you at? I just want to see you, want to be next to you, want to grab lunch. And then sometimes, when she's just going and going, she'll do the same thing. And I think sometimes whether, we just love what we do, she'll go to the studio for hours and just be able to rehearse, practice, or even create. And same thing for me. I'll be, hey, babe, I just want to go hit back. I want to go hit some legs. I want to be in the gym for a little bit. So I think that it has to truly be organic to yourself and make sure that you're doing what you love to do because you want to do it. Because I've been in relationships and friendships to where I'm only doing things because they want to and I wasn't happy in the end, or I find myself changing to be somebody that I never even intended to be. But I think the cool thing about our relationship is we're definitely able to be organic to ourselves. And it was actually just yesterday, listen, we're working out with me 5 days a week. And I said, baby, when are you going to be back in the studio? When are you going to make time for the studio? When 2 years ago, I remember I went down to a medium again because I was driving her to dance class, taking dance classes, just giving. And then we were driving home. She said, baby, when are you going back to the gym? So that insulted my ego and I had to get back in here. But it was something to where we had a find that balance, and we always got to make sure that the other person's getting what they need.
I wonder if you've got a little Libra rising in you, because you do have like a little balancing in the scales, which is super cool. I love to know the secret sauce of relationships, because a lot of people ask me, like, it wasn't easy for me. Like when we were our first 2 years together, me and my husband are insanely jealous. We both have separate lives. Our marriage, oh my God, we almost got divorced the first year we were married. And then we went into therapy, and then we started to realize the things that make us happy. Right. And, you know, I say to everyone, there's no imitation of the secret sauce. Like you gotta add in your own little mix of what's gonna, you know, work for you. But I do think there are some pillars, and
definitely
these are like the foundation for the relationship.
How long have you been married?
I've been married now almost, it's like going in 3.5 years.
Congratulations. Beautiful.
Yeah, I waited until I was 40 years old.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
And it was good. It felt really, really good. But I will say, you know, the one thing that, you know, I have found that is a solid pillar is no matter what, he comes first. Even if, I mean, we can't have kids, but if I did have kids, my husband, unless it was a baby, babies do have to come first. But your husband comes first, your wife comes first. And I've
Definitely.
learned that through my own parents and, you know, the relatives around them, to where they don't get sidetracked in their own lives, and understand that, you know, you make a choice, and every day you wake up,
right,
it's a choice to stay married. I wish, you know, when people are like, oh, it's your soulmate, I'm like, yeah, I had a lot of soulmates in my day. I had a lot of soulmates. I guess with Johnny, I just decided, like, you're it.
Right.
And I'm going to stick in there. So do you feel like your faith? For me, I grew up in the church, and then my parents kind of strayed away from it because, you know, my dad was Muslim and my mom was Catholic, and they had to come together. So they came together over church.
Definitely.
So that was great. But then they realized that they had all these questions, and they wanted to look into Buddhism, and my dad wanted to revisit what being a Muslim was like. And you know, my mom was looking at Baha'i, like all these crazy like things. So I had every religious icon in like the house right around age 13, when almost my whole life was Christian.
You had Jesus, Buddha,
right? Seriously. So I was like, who am I praying to? But the one thing is for sure is if you opened up your mind and your heart to the different works or the writings or the gospels or whatever you want, or religious text, there are some core values that I think is universal. Definitely. So do you feel like, has your faith always played a part in your life? And have you ever not turned your back on it, but have you ever let it go by the wayside because you're like, what the fuck, God? Like, why did you do this to me today?
And I'll say this, to be completely transparent, I had never been rocked or questioned anything until this year.
Yeah.
When I say I know I was asleep, 1995 to 2019, as long as I had been born. And then in March, all this stuff started happening. When I say you were forced to be home and learn something, I never really questioned anything until then. And it wasn't questioning it, is it right or is it wrong, but like, why is it this way, or why is it taught this way? So one thing, you know, I'm very thankful for is I'm open-minded, because I'm always open to learn new things, but I do believe there's a right or a wrong. When I was, you know, in the house back here in March, I was really learning the origins of everything when it comes to Christianity, when it comes to a lot of different religions and beliefs. And I wanted to know why we all believe different things. How come America and Western civilization, we believe one thing, and then if you go into another country or province, it's something different. And it challenged me to really think that, you know, how can I say that everybody in America that believes this is going to heaven, and everyone else is just going to hell because they don't believe in what we believe? There was also a movie that was called The American Gospel. Have you seen it?
I haven't seen it, no, but I love films like that. So I will definitely look it up. Is it on like a Netflix?
Netflix.
Yeah. Okay.
It was shot years ago.
Yeah.
So the reason why it was so powerful to me is because it was the religion. Well, I'll say it like this. It was what I believed to be true in that part in time. So there was a time where I thought Christianity, or what I believe, according to this film, was Jesus wants you to be successful, drive these Benzes, Rolexes, wants you to have the cruise ship, ball out, give your tithes and you make more money.
Yeah.
Give $20, turn it to 20,000. And it was like, it just seemed, I guess, comfortable. It seemed awesome that Jesus wanted me to be rich. But then in this gospel, movie, it was showing us that that is not what the Bible says. It is popular and it profits because, honestly, it's very sexy. It's cool. It's fun. Yeah. And it's easy to preach that. I think that sometimes we get caught up in being comfortable or living the way we want to live, and we justify it by making a means like religion fit into that. And I was doing that. So during this film, it was convicting me because it was like, wait, if that's not what I'm called to believe, then, what is it I'm really believing? So through this year, even up to this point, I'm still finding out things. And, you said we can go that off the deep end. I'm finding out the picture that we have of Jesus, Cedric Borgia, was actually painted by Leonardo DiCaprio, who was not the actual picture and depiction. So there's some things I'm learning that, if you don't want to learn it or you don't want to go on that side, you don't have to. But because I'm so open now, I'm not necessarily being rocked or questioning my faith. I want to learn more of it so I know the truth.
Yeah. I feel like with the current state of the world right now, and with obviously COVID, but then all the social upheaval that went on, there is this questioning of conservative religious background because it's so aligned with our current president.
Sure.
And I think a lot of people are looking to other faiths like Buddhism.
Sure.
Things that are more universal and welcoming to all cultures. The Christian faith is always kind of criticized for polarizing in certain areas, and especially the United States and the Christian churches here are very different from some of the European churches. Do you find ever within you, because I know I have, this year of almost wanting to walk away from your faith a bit because it is so deeply associated with this horrible kind of right wing versus left wing? I've wanted to open up. I don't want to forget my faith.
There you go. Yeah.
But I also want to open up the ideas so that other cultures can be welcomed into the belief system that I have. Because I do feel like when it's heaven or hell, or if you're Jewish or you're Christian and who's going to go to heaven and who's going to go to hell, it exhausts me and it makes me so sad because to me, it almost becomes taking Christianity into something that becomes race-based or status-based, like how much money you make, how do you worship God? And again, a lot of the teachings in church do come from this, like you've got to provide for the family, you got to bring that money, and you've got to bring stuff to the table. If your table is empty, that means that your faith in God has got to be less, because God only puts on people who need to learn and need to grow. And I actually think that that's a bunch of bullshit. I think a lot of us grow up with not a lot of money, and it's really fucking hard to bring home the bacon, right?
Definitely difficult, yeah.
So have you had any conflict within you, or do you feel like your faith has been strong? It's just about what lens you're seeing it through. Right.
My faith is definitely strong, concrete. Like I mentioned, there's right and there's wrong, and I definitely believe what I do. Have you heard of Alan Watts?
Yes, I have.
Rocked me.
Yeah.
So he believes, is it Buddha?
Yeah. Wait a second. Now you're going to quiz me. Hold on. I'm like, so let's see. He wrote like 2 books, but it's like, I want to say it was Buddha that he brought into questioning and comparing. I don't know. Is that right?
Yeah, similar.
Okay.
So I remember when I was, reading into him or listening to him, the first kind of video, and I'm going to get to what your question was, when he brought up that time, money, and ego is all an illusion.
Yes.
I'm like, what are you talking about? I just decided to click this thing on YouTube.
Yeah.
And then when I started listening to it, it kind of opened my mind up to what I, again, had been taught or what I thought had been true. And it was like, can this mix in with Christianity, or can this go well with what I already believe? Or does one have to give, or is the other right and the other wrong? And, I'm finding value in being able to have an open mind, hear, be educated, and, like I said, chase down the truth. Because a lot of things I think are misconstrued throughout time or teaching, or because people feel like this is the right way to do it, the right way to teach it. And I think there's power in knowing like the history and the origin of it. So, I haven't want to walk away from it or give up on it. No, I actually want to become stronger in it and know why. I listen to certain sermons. So there's been some preachers I can't listen to anymore.
Yeah.
There's some people that I know that they do not fit what the truth is, or they do not correlate with what is actually supposed to be being taught. And there's a verse that says, teachers, be careful, because you are teaching people how to be able to serve me. So we have to know what we're teaching and what we're saying. And I think there's power in knowing it for self. So definitely don't want to walk away, just want to become stronger and realize more of what I've been taught or what I'm going to teach. Because when we have children, we're going to be responsible for what they believe and how we believe,
Yes.
Because my father is responsible for me, and then so on and so forth. And I mean, this is a topic. So like when it comes to certain households or the way certain demographics are growing up, I believe that there are some depictions that think that black people are the only people that whoop or spank their children. And it's like, I don't know if that's the truth or not, but I was thinking about it. Why is it that way? If you think about it, back in slave times, all we knew was to be beat.
Yeah.
So when our children mess up, what do? We beat them so that they don't get beat the same that we do.
Yeah.
And then I think it just carried on and on. Now we have to be like, wait, why? Can we just, have conversations? Can we do things a different way? And I think that a lot of people are waking up to that, question why you do what you do or what you believe, and then know that for yourself and not say, well, I just grew up that way. Because
100%.
if you do that, you're going to end up with the exact same thing your parents had, which I think, is honorable. But if you want something different, you have to think and do different.
100%. I'm glad that you spoke to that, because I believe that it's hard, especially when I come from a Middle Eastern culture, and there was no question. If you got out of line, bam. Mm-hmm. My father, grew out of it. Like he finally realized with 4 daughters, they're like, if you put your hands on me, Dad, we're calling. It started to change. My younger sisters got privy to like, that's not cool. But in the next breath, there is this real sense of like, when you start to outgrow what you were taught, and your mind starts to open up to different things. And it's always a little heartbreaking, I think, for parents to realize like they did the best they could, but then they realize that their son or daughter, in some ways they should be happy that their son or daughter has grown and become a better person. Yeah. But there's also this sense of denial and shame of well, they don't adhere to those sets of rules or the way that I brought him up or her up. And it's always heartbreaking. I now with my parents and having conversations that I never thought I would have. And it's always so hard because sometimes they take it personal.
Definitely.
When you think about the death of your father at age 13, if you could ask him any questions now, if you could just understand something maybe you didn't get to ask him, what would be that question?
I guess the biggest, it'd be more so of what is it that I believe that, when you have a child, you're passing on a torch, you're passing on your DNA, you're passing on your legacy. So I always wanted to know, like, what is it, Dad, that you want me to do? Yeah. Not necessarily so I can make him proud, but like, I think that there's power in knowing, a purpose and kind of hey, where did you leave off?
Yeah.
Because that age of 13, I just saw my dad as, he comes home from Bible study, he cooks foods. I want to know what he was working on. Yeah. My dad was a big entrepreneur, and that's why I have a big entrepreneurial spirit. I no longer ask the question of why, if I can be transparent. My father, at the time was unemployed. Being unemployed, I knew that it was my mother who was providing for both of us. My father graduated from Howard University and got his degree in finance.
Wow.
So he was very financially literate. So when it came into, how to save money, how to make money, my father was very educated on that. He made sure his sons knew how to do that too. And one thing I knew that he believed in was life insurance. So the crazy thing is I'm processing it now after I had my financial education through Northwestern Mutual, is that my father had a policy that was enough to keep the house, keep the car.
Wow.
Give us each $50,000 in college. So wait, my father, there was something going on to where he may have thought he wasn't doing his part. So in turn, when you're in a dark depression state, you might think that you're better off in a certain way.
Yeah.
My mother may not respect me saying that, but when I went through my experience at Northwestern Mutual, I was like, wait, so you can get a policy for how much?
Yeah.
Pay this much a month? And then when I look back at it and reflect, I'm like, this isn't my accident. I'm in this position. I'm learning. So it's not a question of why. I would love to be able to, pass on my father's legacy, of education, or whether it is faith, or, giving people opportunity. So, because that's definitely what I want to do. I want to be able to pass on the torch, not necessarily the responsibility of what I want them to do, but just a legacy, do more than what I did.
Yeah.
And my mother definitely instilled that in me, but I think it'd be cool hear from my father as well.
Well, I think you'd probably be pretty proud of who you are right now. I think it's always so interesting to observe the sins of our fathers, right? Where they don't feel everyone has some need to be good enough, right?
Man, yeah.
And I think the hardest part is when you believe your father had a big faith in God. He was obviously a very educated man. And I think, the pressure of providing and wanting to be all the things is, it's exhausting. I watched my father with it. I watched it every day of my life. And our relationship, was kind of put aside because he was so driven to provide and to be there for his 4 daughters.
Definitely.
And I think now I'm just learning more and more about what drove him. And that alone has made me forgive a lot of the things I felt like I missed out in the relationship. And I think the fact that you even spoke earlier about raising a child, together, and you're already percolating like how to provide a better life for the child, but also being like, hey, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I am going to tell you my belief system and what can guide you. Yeah. So I'd like to ask you, what kind of steered your energies into doing work with you worked with suicide prevention, correct?
Yeah.
So I know
Suicide
that
Prevention Month.
So what allowed you to have the strength to go into that, being that this was something that was so close to your father's death? Because I'm sure it's not easy. I go into any volunteer work I have, and there are days that it's like, okay, this is really heavy, but like you draw from this strength, this resolve. What is that for you?
I think that, just realizing the natural talent I have of being able to speak into people, but also my passion for fitness, it was like, if I can serve people who are healthy, who have the budget to be able to work out, I would love to also have the opportunity to work with people who don't want to be here the next day. Because how much does it resonate with someone who doesn't feel like doing a bicep curl with 12s, but I make them do it, to the person that, hey, you matter. Your life actually, somebody cares for you. And I want to be able to speak into people that have, something in their life to where they think they don't, whether it was a job, whether a relationship, whether it was, them not just believing in their own purpose. I want to be able to speak into people and just let them know that they matter. Because I always thought about this, like, what if it was just somebody at the grocery store that told my dad, hey, I like your tie. Or, hey, you know, you're very handsome. Or, hey, you know, I hope you have a good day. You never know what's going to change their trajectory. And maybe you can relate to that. Being in fitness, you don't know what people bring in. And then after your workout session, they come to you crying because I didn't think I could do it. Or I just had this happen. I'm like, oh, my God, like, all I did was tell you to keep it up. But because you felt this way, or you came in with that, now you feel this way. So to me, I think it'd be selfish to not help people that are dealing with what my father dealt with. And mental health is such a real thing. Like, we in Kansas City, we got all 4 seasons. Seasons of oppression is real. So when it gets cold like this, people just want to be inside. They isolate themselves. We just came from being isolated for, 3-4 months?
Yeah.
So it's really easy for people to kind of seclude and get comfortable with that. But I want to make sure that if I can serve a purpose to helping people see another day, I do that. Sometimes I think that we think our decisions only hurt or benefit us. So if I want to be on the video game for 2 hours, I'm not hurting anybody, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's a bad thing, everything in moderation. But I'm saying that if it becomes a habit to
habitual,
and you procrastinating on things that actually matter, you're supposed to write a book that my kids are going to read. You have a cure for something that someone's going to need. And because that you don't think it's important right now, you put it off, or you don't become your full potential or ever achieve it, I think that you're doing a disservice to everybody else.
It's all in the attempt, isn't it?
Yes.
It's just doing it. I love how, I'm going to steal that from you. I love that. The you could be writing a book for my child to read. I love that. That, like, you give me goosebumps. I think that what's so wonderful about talking to you is it seems like you have found some peace in your life. And
Definitely.
I mean, maybe, it does help when you find your partner. You're 3 months in, right?
Yeah, 3 months in.
Newlyweds.
Yep,
Yeah.
We'll be 3 years of being together in November the 11th.
I love it. My husband always says to me, "You are my peace," and
That's
he's
awesome.
mine. And it is kind of great, especially with when the world kind of blows up around you. It's I think about your mother holding it together with the family and finding the strength to do it, because my father right now is battling ALS, and I'm watching my mother. Her peace is his body's fading, and I've fallen. Even though I have so much anger, we all have anger towards our parents one way or the other, but you really start to fall in love with your family all over again when you realize, and you have enough distance from the drama of whatever pain they caused, and you see how they showed up each day. Mm-hmm. And I think it's really cool that you show up each day with such incredible intention for your classes. I only see incredible things for you going forward, and the fact that you are teamed up with a powerful woman who is just as equally motivated. I guess this leads me to some of my closing questions, because I'm just curious. If you and your wife were to host a dinner,
okay,
and anyone dead or alive, aside from obviously your father,
sure,
famous here, it seems like it'd be impossible. Maybe they were from decades ago. Who would they be, and where would you have the dinner, and what would you eat?
Oh, wow. Okay. And you said dead or alive?
Yep, dead or alive, 3 people. And they're what you want, because I'm going to ask
3?
your wife. I'm going to ask when she's on the podcast, her people.
You could say Morris Chestnut. She agrees too.
I love it. I love it.
So, wow, that's a very good question. You say dead or alive?
Yep, dead or alive.
David Goggins, of course. I just would want to hear his mindset on, just staying hard and just staying focused. If I had to say another one, and I'm glad you asked, because I wasn't prepared for this one. David Goggins, Les Brown, a whole bunch of motivation. We just talking the whole time.
I love it.
And then, who was someone else?
I love that you're picking people to fill your tank.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I need that energy, because, like you said, being such a giver, you need people to pull it back into you. Yeah. And sometimes at the end of the day, I'll pour it so much to everyone else, and then it's time for me to work out. I'm just like, I got to pull it out from somewhere. I wish someone could. And then I have to say Kobe.
Oh, yeah.
Just his mentality and, nothing else matters except what it is I want.
Totally.
The way he didn't care for people's feelings, or people said that just according to the way he played basketball and stuff like that. Was
and
amazing.
I love that he's not a saint. I think some of the coolest people, like my dog, he's definitely not a saint. He's pissed off right now.
Does he want me to pick him up now?
I don't know what he wants. I swear Chunk has got to be he's like, you're stealing my thunder. But yeah, I like having somebody who isn't perfect, but became a better man through his whole life. Like
Definitely.
He just kept getting better. I think it's pretty cool. So where would you have this dinner? Would it be in your home? Would you go to a restaurant? Would it be, where would you, it could be anywhere in the frickin' world.
Anywhere in the world.
Anywhere.
And that's how I haven't traveled enough. I would want to go to some fancy, extravagant Las Vegas casino hotel, and there's nothing but us three.
Yes,
in there.
I love that. I love that. And have people serve you. And what, pray tell, would Mr. Chocolate Muscle be eating? I love it.
I would have some vegetarian options and then some steak and chicken, stuff like that. We've been on this meat substitute kick, so we've been doing veggie burgers, Beyond Burgers, all the.
Yeah.
We actually had a jerk chicken, jackfruit yesterday for the first time.
Oh.
So we would have all that.
I love it. This man, he's like, come on. And then final question. What do you cheat? Like, what's your sweet tooth yumminess? Like, what is your cheat?
Cinnamon rolls.
Cinnamon. Oh.
Now I'm not going to say chocolate, right?
Yeah, I know. But I love that you said cinnamon rolls because I love the butter. I like the dough. I like it all. Well, I am so happy that we did this. And this was surprisingly really, I don't want to say easy because that sounds a little strange, but it flowed so well. And I really like the man who you are. And I really hope that we meet again and maybe we'll even double date with me and my hubs.
Let's go.
And celebrate your wife coming on this podcast because now I've got a bunch of questions for her. I love it.
And the thing is, it's funny. So like she would honestly I think, be a great person to have because she can talk. She details. I'm like, boom, boom, that's it. Boom. What do you know? That's it. So
I love it. I love it.
You.
Well, she's coming on for sure, Giovanna. We're bucking her. So if people are curious about your training, they'd like to connect with you on that level, where can they reach you? Social media, any online sources?
So you can find me on Instagram at @chocolate_muscle_. If you're looking for my wife, she teaches dance classes at Alyssa Rivera Official. And then here soon, we're going to be launching Abs KC as our group fitness page. So.
I love it. Well, you heard it here first. Thank you so much for joining me today. And thank you guys for watching, for viewing, for listening. If you like this episode, please click on the subscribe button and follow Seraphine Podcast. Take a look at anything that this man is doing because I guarantee you're going to see a lot more of him and his wife, Alyssa. Thanks so much and see you later.